Kang from Crypto Soul, and welcome back to the Erica Show. Today in episode 32, I'm here with Tamlyn Rudolph of Vega Protocol. Vega is Web3's native derivatives layer and creating new bridges to major blockchains. So, Tamlyn, welcome to the Erica Show. Hi.
Hi, thanks a lot for having me, Erica. Lovely to be with you today.
Thank you, thank you. As our third female guest, I'm very delighted to have you here and, talk about Vega, which is the up and coming, really relatively new project. And I think people are very excited to hear about Vega, especially in Korea as well. So before we go in, could you please do a short introduction of yourself, what you're currently working on, and just briefly, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Hey, so I am by background an energy derivatives trader. So I traded electricity futures as well as weather futures, all sorts of other kind of complex derivatives that surround energy markets. And I did this across a large range of different strategies, whether that was hedging real world market risk for large publicly listed companies. I also did a stint at a high frequency trading shop that was very educational. And I also co-founded my own proprietary trading company, and we managed around about 100 million assets under management. And in that company, we were acting almost like a virtual generator or a virtual retailer in the power markets and helping companies basically hedge their risk. So yeah, that was my background, professionally speaking, historically, and then obviously in the last few years since 2018, I've been working on the Vega Protocol project, helping co-design the protocol itself, writing the white paper, and helping, sort of build out what I hope to be, really a major player in the future of financial markets.
Wow. I mean, I've met the Vega team I believe 2018. I think that was when you just began. And then since then you've been building and building. And then now you're finally really getting to the community and building up the whole ecosystem. So it's been really exciting ride for your team. And I'm very excited that you're really expanding very, expansively in Asia as well. You said you worked in the traditional finance area, especially energy, which is very exciting and insightful. How did you transition into the crypto scene, because it seems like a very big jump, and I would love to hear your story about that.
Yeah, sure. So actually what happened after I was running this proprietary trading company, we decided to kind of wrap up that structure and open it into a larger fund and set up all the structures ready to do that. And then we all kind of looked at each other, myself and my co-founders, and thought, what, why don't we take a break? And we each wanted to explore other ideas. So I was very interested in entrepreneurship, particularly in tech and transformative tech. I was from Africa originally, and I spent a bit of time back in Africa working on agricultural projects, trying to understand the way, business is done and where there were technology needs, basically. And one thing led to another, and I met Ramsey, who had met Barney, and they'd concocted this idea around basically running derivatives markets, basically building out the derivatives layer for the Bitcoin ecosystem at the time, really. And so, this was a concept of running derivatives on protocols, without intermediaries. And this really made my spine tingle. I liked the sense of craziness about it, the sense of anarchy, perhaps, the challenge, very much an intellectual challenge. But I think really, any trader you speak to will say that there's a lot of inefficiency in markets. And that's absolutely true. But that isn't what really excited me. I think what really excited me was the potential that transforming the financial system to work this way, not only through, with Bitcoin as a sort of exchange of value and other sort of exchange, say, spot value exchanges, but then also, really the exchange of risk across borders and the opening up of markets to help people manage their risk across, sort of global payment channels, so to speak, was very, very exciting to me. So yeah, it's obviously there was a really high caliber group of people that came together in 2018 from blockchain engineers, cryptography, professor of cryptography, Barney, who'd worked in financial markets infrastructure for many, many years, David, who was been a quant on a front office desk and was now a lecturer at Edinburgh University. So we had a really great team, and that really got me involved as well.
So awesome. Actually, I'm from the finance, traditional finance industry as well, like a little bit. And I also noticed like the inefficiency of the market, even though I worked for only a few years. And I think a lot of the people who work in blockchain now, who's from the finance background, feels the same as this common factor that kind of brought them into the crypto space. So I really feel the commonality there. And I think. In the financial markets, traditional financial markets, there's also, I think the high, institutional framework factor and also the risk factor. And I would love to hear later on, like how that kind of interplays in the DeFi space as well. Because it's, I think the risk is maximized in the DeFi space, especially now. But yeah, I'd love to hear more on that later on, talking about DeFi in general. But let's talk more about Vega. I love the name, by the way. How did you come up with the name? I would love to hear in your own words, how would you introduce Vega and what core problem is it trying to solve?
Sure. So firstly to the name, I think it was Barney who chose the name, and it actually, Vega can be a lot of things to many people. It's a star, it's across a lot of popular culture, but actually the name was based off a very geeky reason where in options pricing models, you have this concept of parameters called the Greeks, and Vega actually is not actually even a Greek letter, but it's termed in Greeks, and it refers to the sensitivity of an option price to the implied volatility parameter. So extremely geeky, but something that's obviously used a lot in options trading. But yeah, as to what Vega is, so Vega it really, as I was saying before, is that derivatives layer for what I believe is really a fundamental sort of shift, or even like this emergent new financial system, and one that uses essentially data channels to pass around value and risk. At least that's how I see it. And in terms of the problems it's solving, I think Vega is first and foremost a tool for communities. So being a public blockchain, it means any communities, without censorship or preference, can access the professional grade tools of markets. So that might be being a market owner to launch and run their own markets, to contribute liquidity, to seek risk mitigation and pricing, from the global liquidity pools on Vega. So, I think the grand implication of this is that I see is that, the world's markets can move towards more decentralized ownership and access. And then that's very exciting to me.
Yeah, great. Okay, let's kind of break down Vega into like core elements, maybe concepts that kind of constitute what Vega is. How is it built as you co-designed it? I would love to hear more about how Vega is technically built as a derivatives layer, and also why did you decide to build on the Tendermint engine as well? That was also one of my I was very curious about that as well.
Yeah, sure. So Vega is basically comprised of a bunch of different sort of layers to its design. So it is a proof of stake blockchain, and it's one that has been really custom designed very specifically for the purpose of running trading, basically. So it's got things like, in doing that, in designing and building our own blockchain from scratch, it gave us a lot of liberty to innovate at that consensus layer. So, for example, having anti-front running built in at the consensus layer. And I'm happy to dive in a bit deeper to that. There are also other things that, we needed to consider. So naturally, we were considering Ethereum, but there were some pretty key issues that we preempted. So Ethereum is also a generalized blockchain. So given we were always thinking about Vega as being capable tooling to run real financial markets, really professional grade financial markets, a generalized blockchain did run the risk of being congested, maybe by crypto kitties or something like this. and that didn't seem terribly smart to us. It also allowed us to choose our own economic models. So instead of people being charged to place orders on a limit order book, like on a market, which, you know, those orders are useful pricing information to the network. They're useful to the markets. So charging people for that just didn't seem like something really desirable either. In terms of Tendermint, it had, you know, fast finality. And of course, if you're going to run trading, so if you think about trading, its economic usefulness is derived in a large part for according to how frequent new information comes to that market. So, being able to respond to new information quite fast is a really sort of important aspect of the market. So yeah, the fast finality of Tendermint, which at the time I think was sort of the most mature sort of proof of stake library, basically, that, you know, at least, you know, according to the ones we were comparing. And yeah, that's sort of the proof of stake layer. And then in terms of the other layers that constitute Vega, so the Vega nodes run a trading application. So, and that trading application handles in a fully decentralized way the end-to-end trade lifecycle. So that's like your price determination and your matching. So matching engine, it's all of your post-trade logic, and then it's all of your settlement. And so in having a bespoke trading application to run all of that, what you can do is you're building in at the blockchain layer concepts like markets, like instruments, like products, like risk models. You know, you can build in the processes for running mark to market and margin calculations and, you know, automatic settlement, and even things like circuit breakers on the market, which are obviously super important when the market is going crazy, as we've all seen in the last, you know, year or so. And, you know, that logic can all be built in at the blockchain layer. And what that means is that tooling is available then for anybody who wants to run a market. They don't have to then go and code up their own matching engine or, you know, market processes, or worry about, you know, price protection mechanism. That's all sort of been pre-designed and built by people who have traded in markets. And so that's the end-to-end trade lifecycle is sort of a big part of what Vega offers. And then probably layered on top of that, which is also really, really important, is the economic model of Vega. So there's a liquidity incentive mechanism, and it's designed to incentivize and reward liquidity providers of a market that essentially take on the risk of, you know, providing market to, say, liquidity to like new markets or markets that are, you know, not having a very high growth spurt at that time. And basically it's designed so that liquidity that begets liquidity, so liquidity that leads to more trading, gets rewarded. And it's a permissionless liquidity protocol, and it's designed to work with order book markets, which is a bit novel. And there's a lot of flexibility built into the liquidity protocol. So it means that you could potentially be a liquidity provider, but you can keep your sort of volume quite far away from the, you know, potentially trading, or you can run very active liquidity strategies. And it all really depends on what your sort of investment thesis is, let's say. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm writing a blog at the moment that I'm going to put out about like just sort of the different ways that you can look at providing liquidity on Vega markets.
Ooh, very exciting. And can you tell us more about maybe the function of the native token? Anything that, you know, deals with that? What it enables? That'd be very interesting.
Yeah, sure. So the native token essentially serves to coordinate governance of the protocol, and the network. And so, you know, over time, the community will be weighing into like pretty crucial decisions on how this network behaves, both technically and economically. There's going to be decisions around things like fee rates. So each market can have a different fee rate, but also, you know, what fee rates go back to essentially the token holders and those running and securing the network. Also how the protocol manages risk, how and when upgrades are accepted, which markets are launched, which assets are used for margin and settlement. There's going to be a lot of utilities. Anyone owning that governance token will have a lot of decisions that they can weigh into that really affect the network. And so the token's role is really to basically allocate a voting weighting so that, a pseudonymous user can vote according to their token holdings. And then, of course, the delegated proof of stake blockchain also requires a way to decide which is the validator set and give each validator, the right amount of power for running the network. So yeah, that's basically in a nutshell the utility of the token.
Great. Thank you. There are so many protocols coming up in the DeFi space. It's been quite a bit, since DeFi summer happened, and now I think it's being more explosive as well. What do you consider as like some competitors that would, in this space? It's hard to put into competitors category, but then, what would be comparable, I would say, like what's similar and what differentiates Vega from the other protocols in the DeFi space that are doing similar things? Maybe, can you give us some insight on that? That'd be very interesting.
Yeah, people ask us a lot about competitors, and, I find it difficult to answer, actually, because it's like, I feel like there are more and more, we're seeing more and more decentralized derivatives protocols, come up, and we've seen, like, we've taken a look at those that have published white papers, and we can sort of dig into their tech and see their approach. So far, I would say our approach has been pretty different. And I think that how that will kind of play out is things like our anti-front running protection, for example. Like, we preempted this 3 years ago. In fact, I think it was probably the first conversation I ever had with George Nezis, who's a professor of cryptography, and I think one of the first questions I ever asked him was, second, who gets to choose the sequencing of the orders? Because as a trader, obviously, that's hot property. People pay a lot of money to get access to the order book. So I think innovations like that will set us apart. And let me just think what else. I would say as well that I don't probably think of our competitors so much as DeFi competitors. I think that, ultimately all of us are trying to massively disrupt the financial system and a way of the world working, I guess, financially speaking. And so probably my personal ethos is a little bit more like we're all in this together, and we're running a series of experiments. We're experimenting with technology. We're experimenting with economic principles. We're experimenting with governance and coordination. And so, quite frankly, I don't really think about too much anyone else. What I'm more, when someone says, "Oh, have you seen this new protocol?" I'm excited. Sort of competitors, I typically think of anyone else who is working on these difficult problems, and they are difficult. How do you run decentralized calibration of risk models? How do you solve, the kind of coordination problems that are necessary to run efficient and quality markets? And so when I see that others are working on this, I get excited, and I don't really worry too much, that I think there are many winners, basically, in the DeFi space. I don't think it's going to be, one winner takes all. And, that really ties probably into my own interest in essentially multi-chain DeFi. I think that, as Vega is initially bridged to Ethereum. So that means any ERC20 assets can be used for margin and settlement on Vega. And future bridges will come, in speaking to Terra, and, there's plenty of other sort of blockchains we can bridge to for collateral. I really think, I'm really excited, to be honest, by the scope that the multi-chain DeFi ecosystem opens up. And I can see that there's going to be lots of people playing around with different types of, derivatives trading, in all sorts of different and creative ways.
Yeah, thank you for your insight. I'm really interested about the idea of Vega, connecting to other blockchains for collateral, and it's very, it's very, I think, differentiates a lot from other products out there. And does that avoid, or does that not create any risk problems? Because it might seem from a third party's perspective, it might seem a little bit risky, in that sense. But maybe I'm wrong, or maybe people think otherwise. They don't know deep into the tech. So could you tell us more about how that works and how that actually does not create risk, or I guess in terms of how? Yeah, I'm very curious about that model as well. the collateral. Yeah.
That's a good question. I think, actually, in a way, I see it as almost like dividing the risk management between what the Vega network secures and what the Ethereum network secures. And I mean, Ethereum has a long history of being able to, secure, like as a blockchain, it's, got a long history of being a secure blockchain. And I think, there's really the security model of Vega is if people deposit collateral into the Vega bridge smart contract on Ethereum, and then it's up to the Vega blockchain to sort of track whether the trader down the track, if they want to withdraw collateral, has sufficient collateral to withdraw. And that's really the role of the Vega nodes. So and the way they figure that out is by running this trading application, looking at all of the actions and activities of the trader itself, and, maintaining that, consistent view of the sort of state of the Vega collateral pool, let's say, is actually a pretty major part of what they do. And then it's up to them to then, if a trader wants to withdraw collateral, it's up to them to sign and say that's okay to do. But, the collateral itself is sort of maintained and secured over on the Ethereum side. I don't know if that really answers your question, but it's like two different sort of roles, because I mean, it's not to say, that Vega couldn't have its own native collateral. Of course it could, but we felt like that wasn't really the role of the Vega blockchain. Like the role of the Vega blockchain is to be excellent at understanding markets and understanding that state evolution, and understanding whether that trader can withdraw the money or not.
Okay, thank you so much. I need to do more studying on this, but it's very interesting. And you mentioned quite a few times about the anti-front running problem, which is a huge problem in DeFi, and also the recent Oracle problem as well. How can Vega, avoid such problems like that? Can you explain it? I think it's a very crucial problem that needs to be solved in the DeFi space. But can you explain more how Vega, prevents that? And that'd be very interesting to hear.
Yeah, definitely. Happy to talk about both of those. They're both things that are really crucially important for Vega, and something we definitely identified very early on as being very crucially important. I mean, if we just look at the front running problem, I think, I like to go to the Flashbots dashboard. I don't know if you've seen it. It's that. I think they've calculated that, it's around 700 million this year has been extracted in MEV on Ethereum alone. And really, it was really quite a big priority for us. As in, when we were laying out our design criteria and thinking about the fact that we wanted Vega to be used by professional traders and, used for running real world markets, and we knew this was something we had to solve. And so we were really very, very fortunate to gain to our team Dr. Klaus Kasawe, who has been working on proof of stake type protocols for well over 20 years. So just an absolute genius. And we sort of threw him this problem, and I've got to be honest, I didn't think it was very easily solvable. But, I'm not a consensus layer expert or cryptographer, and he basically designed a pre-protocol that is used. So when transactions come into the blockchain, this pre-protocol widget essentially processes them. We're fondly calling it Wendy, and it's very cute. It's essentially it's an add-on to blockchains, and it can handle front-running issues by ensuring a fair ordering of transactions. Now, what's interesting about this as well is that fairness is in itself a well-defined concept. So different definitions of fairness could exist according to whatever type of application you're running. And given that Wendy can be used across multiple blockchains, it really is more like a framework. It's designed to be a framework that can support multiple concepts of fairness. So it's up to the people using Wendy to help define the concept of fairness that Wendy will enforce. So like some applications like on a, might enforce that those who are going to pay more for a transaction might get preferential ordering. We didn't want that, of course, for Vega, because as I said before, we wanted to accept transactions that didn't cost because we wanted to, welcome orders to the order book rather than prevent people placing them. But that's the front running side. Yeah, I think Klaus's work is really excellent. I really encourage anyone interested to check out a blog that he wrote about it, and we've got some YouTube videos and interviews with him. But the Oracle problem, very, very good question. And, oracles are vitally important for any cash settled derivatives. And that is because literally by definition, the thing you are trading is what a future data reading is. So that means an example might be weather futures. You might be trading what a particular weather station's reading for rainfall is. Maybe the sum of the rainfall over a week or something like that. And so that data reading is crucially important. And so once again, thinking about Vega being a very generalized framework for creating and launching derivatives, we felt that, that needed a very generalized framework for oracles. So rather than tying ourselves to one oracle type, what we've done is created a generalized framework, as I said, where it allows people who are proposing the markets on Vega to propose which oracle they're going to use. So an example might be if I wanted to launch those rainfall futures markets, I might say, you know what, I'm going to go to my garden and I'm going to read how much rainfall there has been this week in my weather station reading. I'll take a photo of it. That's the oracle. So you, as a participant, can be an oracle on Vega. Another Vega market can be an oracle on Vega. And also, other, oracles that meet the Open Oracle standard, Coinbase Oracle, Chainlink oracles, banned oracles, the decentralized protocol oracles, all of them to some extent can be used on Vega. It's really up to the community to say that these are the oracles they want, and that capacity will build out over time. We've laid the groundwork for the oracles at the moment, and the first oracles supported are either participants or oracles where the data is supplied in the Open Oracle standard.
Wow. Very interesting. And it's very fascinating that you thought of this way before this these incidents happened, and in terms of the DeFi, all these issues that popped out this year and last year, and so it's very fascinating that you try to prevent all of this in the beginning of the architecture process. So that's very interesting. And you said that we're all in this together in the DeFi space, and I really agree that I think it's not a competitive scene. It's more we're trying to grow the pie and trying to innovate the space. Try to, I guess, prevent what's been, happening in the traditional finance and trying to make it better and as one group, I guess. What's your general take on what's happening and how the flow is going in general in the DeFi space? I think it's also, becoming more innovative these days. There's more things popping up. But in your perspective, as someone who's seen this flow for some time, what's your take on how this DeFi space is shaping up to?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think broadly speaking, the things I'm most excited about are the fact that we have a crowd of people that are thinking about reshaping finance in a way that I've never seen before. I've been obviously part of trader communities for many years, and there's the lamenting and the I wish the world were this way, but really very little action has been possible because of course the technical tools weren't there. And I think DeFi's the technical tools are being there's just this mass of people who are descending on them and pulling them apart and sort of playing around. And of course in this era of experimentation, there's going to be a huge amount of problems, and security breaches and attack vectors and money and so forth. But what I think is really important about crypto is you've got the monetary incentive, sort of, because this is crypto finance almost by definition, you've got sort of monetary incentives to be creative. And I think that what I get most excited about is the fact that in conversations, you know, in various DeFi chats or just, you know, with individuals, that I hear concepts that I think, wow, you know, unless you're really a pretty top class financial engineer in the financial markets, you wouldn't necessarily be talking about this in your spare time. I think. So we have like this great mass of minds that are incentivized and interested and excited by this, but also, you know, you've got, as I said, the money, which is providing honeypots, which means that, yes, there are attacks, there are problems, but actually what that's doing is it's building our security in DeFi, building the security layer to DeFi. So I would say that anybody who's playing around with DeFi protocols, please do, you know, with caution, but, you know, and really try and understand the risks, because if you can understand risk management, you're really, that's just a really exceptional skill to have in general in life anyway. But it means that as you're experimenting and playing, you can also add value to these projects by, you know, highlighting the different, you know, problems that you see or the different sort of attack vectors. But yeah, I would say that's what I'm sort of most watching in DeFi.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know, I think experimentations, a series of that, and that'll be, you know, relating to resulting in innovation in the industry. So it's just the nascent beginning, right? So I highly think that it will definitely get better, and you know, people are building like crazy, so which is a very positive thing to see. And one of the things that, you know, what we have to consider in, I mean, crypto in general, I think, is user adoption, and I think even with DeFi, you know, NFTs and in general crypto, I think the same people kind of are interested in the same kind of pool, and we innovate each other. But then I think that in order for the I guess traditional finance or some traders to come in and really try this thing out and get interested, you know, we need to really bring about user adoption and try to find new ways to do that. How is Vega trying or planning to further grow and expand the ecosystem so that it will drive more user adoption?
So, you know, Vega, we're definitely like software builders, basically. And so we're building tools that communities can use. And so top of mind for us is definitely education. It's like, let us teach you. I mean, you know, like I said before, there's this enthusiastic group of people who want to learn about derivatives in their spare time. I mean, that's fantastic. It's really great to teach people about professional grade risk management, to teach them about, you know, how these markets operate. So education is a really big deal for us. And actually, we're about to launch a program. We're calling it Vega Bots. Oh. And yeah, Christina, who you know very well, is running that. And if you're interested in that, please join our Discord, and we'll be posting some information about that coming really soon. But yeah, basically the idea with that is to be able to really deep dive with people so that they can really learn and understand our technology. And it's not just, you know, it's the financial technology, it's the economics, to get their hands dirty with playing with our testnet. And we're actually about to launch some incentives on our testnet. And the purpose of that is really to, yeah, keep up the education and keep up the play. You know, it's Vega isn't super easy. You know, there's a lot of deep complexity that's gone into the design. And so what we're really interested in is you know, getting alongside people, spending time with them, letting them get to know us and get to know why we made particular design decisions. And also, as I said earlier, you know, it's the community that will help drive and shape how this evolves going forward. I mean, just as an example, the kinds of things that are on our sort of future roadmap for thinking about sort of technically evolving Vega would be like, of course, more bridges, but we want to look at, you know, different liquidity incentives that can handle more passive liquidity, so like liquidity pools, AMM, hybrid AMM order books, you know, new products, so options, perpetuals. We're looking at, you know, a smart product language where that's domain specific, where basically any derivative on Earth could be coded with language, obviously new order types, new risk models. You know, there's an infinite amount. You know, Vega's just at the beginning of innovation. And so in terms of adoption, I think really what we want is people to adopt the protocol and to feel like it's theirs, to understand the design itself and help us build that out. Because I think that is actually the key next step. And then, you know, it's really about facilitating discussions between different groups of people. And, you know, I've been speaking to people for many, many years, and there's all sorts of markets that they're thinking about creating on Vega. And they'll do that permissionlessly. They don't need to ask my permission for that. They'll do that. I wouldn't even necessarily know about it. That's really, really exciting to me. And there's just been some brilliant ideas. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mentioned this before in our previous conversation, but in Vietnam, where I'm, you know, currently residing in, there's universities and university clubs that are specifically looking at DeFi, and they're keen on learning about various DeFi protocols and, you know, services out there that really they can learn from and they can really use. Because I think, you know, education, as you said, is a key factor in driving this adoption and this interest as well. And I think one of the ways that they can do is like by, you know, tackling universities and like making sure that they learn about this new trend and they can play around with it as well. So something that just kind of popped into my head, but I really think that DeFi education is crucial in Asia as well. People really are curious about various things that are happening in the world, and you know, it's just the exposure that is a little lacking and the content. So yeah, I just wanted to add that on my end. But I think you mentioned a little bit about upcoming milestones in the second half of 2021. Is there anything else that is exciting that you can share with us? Yeah, on this interview.
Yeah, sure. So as I said, tomorrow actually we're opening registrations for our
tomorrow. Yay.
We run a daily testnet, a weekly testnet jam every Thursday evening. I can't do the time difference in my head, but it's 6 p.m. BST, so British Summer Time. So sort of, yeah, a few hours from now. And then I'll be basically showing how to get started on that. So how to register. And that should be a lot of fun. Then in terms of the other milestones, we've got the restricted mainnet due in July, and the alpha mainnet due in August. That's as per the coin list page. So yeah, this is, you know, Vega's, we're really close now.
Yeah.
To the feature complete. And well, for the first version, as I said, there's plenty more features and evolution to go forward. But yeah, that's really what we're focused on this year. And as I said before, like really in the lead up to that, running this Vega Bonds project and getting the community really understanding how they can use Vega is really top of mind.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I really wanted you to share your screen and like show us what you have for now, because like what I saw was like super exciting. So can you share with us what you have at the moment, and you know how it can be actually more developed, or I don't know, just can you do a run through how it happens currently?
Really love to. Let me just have a quick share. I don't know. Apologies. Can you see that?
I see. Yes, I see it. Yes.
Great. So if you want to go to fairground.wtf, this is where we will have the different incentives listed. And scroll down and there will be incentives sort of scrolling across here. So in the next sort of 24 to 48 hours, hopefully that will be the case. And if you click here, use Vega console, it will open up this console.fairground.wtf. So, all right. So what you see here is a reference front end. So it's like a window into a Vega network. And I'm actually showing you the staging environment at the moment. And you can see in the top left a bunch of information about how you can connect a wallet and get collateral. And we've got really great docs that walk you through that. But if you take a peek here, you can see some information about the network that is running at the moment. So at the moment, this is quite a low volume network. We've got a nice block duration time that typically sits anywhere between 500 milliseconds and a second. And we've just got a small number of bots, so not a lot of transactions per second going through the chain at the moment, but the capacity is much higher. This chain has been running for 11 days. And below you can see a list of all the network parameters. These help govern how the network behaves. And if you're a governance token holder, you can also, contribute to where those should be set. Apologies. So you'll see I've got some collateral already. I've got some testnet DAI, and you can see a list of all the markets that are currently running on this network. And in fact, any community member could propose a new market, and that would be subject to an on-chain governance vote. And if you look at all the list of the markets, you might notice that these are not just crypto futures markets. There's also, an Apple futures market, a Tesla futures market. So people are experimenting with all the different types of futures that you can create on this testnet. So if you actually were to click into one of them, you can just click create new workspace, and we could put a little trade on now. So why don't I put on a trade, just a small trade. Let's buy some Bitcoin. So let's buy for 35, 319 point. What should I do? Let's just put something highish because I want to buy this, and I'm going to go long. So you can see that the order has hit the order book and it's really quickly traded. And that's all happened in a fully decentralized way. So the order got sent to the network network gossiped the order, it looked at the order book, it matched this order, and you can see some information about the trade, the average entry price, and now it's going through a live market process. This is all engineered by this decentralized network. So it's really, really exciting tooling. I hope you guys are interested in playing around with it. Great.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Before we go, I would love to hear from you more on what markets, is Vega concentrated, because I see a lot of interest in Asian countries regarding Vega, and I would love to hear what your plans are in expanding into Asian markets also, because I think the community is very curious about it, and I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, keep in mind that really Vega is, it's a tool for communities. And so in terms of the markets that we're thinking about, really, the question for us is how well are we educating the global community? Because it's really for everyone. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know that sounds maybe a little crazy, but it really is. So Christina is putting quite a lot of time and effort, and our community team in general, into thinking about how we expand that education, because I think that that's super key. So I agree that, the concepts of Vega resonate quite well with various of the sort of Asian cultures that I've engaged with, and I think I'm very excited by the interest in Asia, broadly across Asia, and so we're really open, I think, to providing whatever support we can provide, both at the university education level, like you said, but also just to groups that want to experiment and play with Vega. So that's probably my main top of mind thinking around that. I think that the kind of markets that people talk about wanting to build on Vega kind of says quite a lot about, how the tech might evolve. Like, for example, there's a group of game developers who are quite interested in exploring how in-game markets could be facilitated using technology like Vega. And so having their voice contribute to our ecosystem is brilliant, because, some of Vega's tech isn't quite ready for that, but definitely on our roadmap are, things like a two-way Ethereum bridge. So, you can actually trade from a smart contract on Ethereum on Vega, and sort of basically trying to evolve Vega in a way that is really useful to the way people want to use it is really great for us. Other ideas that people come up with, like I said, are very responsive. Say, like, if there's some situation in their country or in their local area, they want to see if they can use Vega to help solve a problem. Mm-hmm. And so we are thinking very much about how do we help people understand how Vega can help solve their problems. So spending as much time with people and talking about the software, the tech, showing demos, getting people playing with the test now, I think is really the best way for them to learn.
Yeah, I think time is definitely an effort and it's necessary to make that happen, and for everybody in the crypto space, to be honest. So yeah, but I really agree with your thoughts, and thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing about Vega. I'm very excited for your team in the upcoming months and next year and onwards. So I look forward to seeing more of Vega's presence in Asia as well. So yeah, thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you in person soon.
I'm going to definitely be heading back to Australia where my family are, and I definitely plan to stop over either on the way or on the way back and spend some real time in Asia. So
Great.
Take care.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.